Yeah, I started praying for a wife, and after 2 years, God showed me her face, which took a number of years to trace, and I finally got her.
The moment we greeted, we shook our hands. A voice in me said that this is the man.
As if that was not enough, they planned for a wedding worth 5,000 bob only. Join Mr. and Mrs. Daniel Masyiuki as they tell their story.
Maisha and Ndoa.
Well, a very warm welcome to you. Thank you very much for tuning in once more to your favorite TV station, MBCR TV, where lives are definitely transformed every single moment. Kipindi hewani ni Maisha and Ndoa, where we tell you real life stories just as they are. My good name's Super Roy. I'm your host, and kama kawaida, we've got awesome stories, awesome testimonies that we have brought to you. Aya basi, pengine unajiuliza mpendwa mtazamaji, in this time and era, does God still perform miracles? Are miracles real? In the 21st century, probably most of you would argue that pale kitambo wakati wa kina Musa ndiposa kulikuwa na miujiza. Miujiza mingi, lakini sasa hivi ni kana kwamba miujiza imepungua. But today, on our set, we have Mr. and Mrs. Daniel Masyiuki. Karibuni sana.
Asante.
Super.
Yes, and they will be sharing with us their real life stories. And after this, you tell me, does God still perform miracles? They will tell us after your testimonies.
Asante sana.
Very blessed to have you people. Kama kawaida tunasema wale ambao wanakuja hapa, busy people, but you create time ili mpate kuongea na watazamaji wetu so they can hear what you've been through in your marriage and they can be able to stand in their own.
Sure.
Okay, Mr. Daniel Masyiuki.
Yes.
Thank you for bringing your lovely wife with that awesome smile, Colgate smile.
Wow.
I want to know, mimi nataka kujua, how did you know she was the one? Ama kunanga the one? Wacha tuanzie pale.
Watu wengi husema unabahatisha. But it is true, kunaye.
Because the bone of your bone.
Yes.
Wow.
I don't think wakati Mungu aliumba Adam na akaleta Eve, alienda kukagua kati ya wengi in as much as walikuwa wao wawili. So kama Mungu alitoa ubavu wangu, kuna vile. Okay, inaaminika kwamba katika ulimwengu lazima uchague, kuna wengi. Potential iko ndio, lakini kuna yule. Kwa hivyo sababu ya kuamini hivyo, nikiwa kijana nilianza kujiandaa. What kind of man do I want to be when it comes to marriage? In my youth, I started preparing for that also. I read books, I read the Bible, and I believed that God would provide a wife, a good wife for me. So kando na kuona mtu fulani anatamanika na nafikiria angefaa, wengi haikuwezekana. Kwa hivyo baada ya kujua ningetaka kuwa wakati gani, nilienda kwa Mungu nikamwambia. Na nikaenda kwa wazazi wangu nikawaambia kwamba ifikapo wakati huu ningetaka kuwa na nyumba yangu. Na nakumbuka nilikuwa mwaka katika masomo, mwaka wa pili chuo kikuu. Ndio nikaanza kuomba Mungu anitayarishie mke. Na baada ya mwaka mmoja hakuna dalili zozote ninapata.
Oh my goodness. Na wewe unaomba kabisa.
Naomba nikimaanisha, sababu namwambia
I'm telling you.
Hata nilimtisha Mungu kwamba usipoleta Mungu sasa nitachagua kati ya hawa tunasoma nao.
Nasikia.
Lakini wache nivumilie tu nione kama utafanya kitu. Kwa hivyo by the end of my third year of my studies, nikienda kwa maombi kuhusu jambo hili, lilianza kunisumbua kiasi kwamba wakati wa chakula cha mchana singeenda kula. Nilikuwa nakimbia kwa bush kuomba. So after 1.5 years nikianza kuomba, kuna picha ilianza kutokea. Na by the end of my first semester, 4th year, the picture was very clear.
So what you mean is, please, cutting you short.
Yes.
This picture, we want to know, mi pamoja na mtazamaji. You visually saw her face, her spirit.
Yes, her face.
And you never met her.
The truth is, I didn't know anyone who would look like her.
Oh my God. So you said you saw the smile?
I saw, no, there was no smile.
The face.
Just the face. It was a portrait sort of. Na juu nilikuwa naomba mahali kuna miti mingi, it would come like a portrait hanging on one of the trees.
Oh my goodness.
And I would open my eyes and it was still there. So it became so clear that if I met her on the road, I would say, excuse me, you are the one I'm looking for. Now, how
did you meet? I mean, thank you very much for being spiritual. Now I want to know the physical manifestation.
First, I decided that I should try those that I had threatened God that I can select from. But anytime I opened my mouth to speak those words, that image would appear next to that person and I can tell clearly, you're not the one. So I went to propose a number of times while in campus and it didn't work. So when I came out, nikaanza kufanya kazi. After about 6 months, the urge in me to look for this person, ambaye sijui ni wa nchi gani lakini najua na African origin, it became so strong. So for about 120 days, I walked in the city of Nairobi, where people congregate. There is
looking,
scanning every
searching
woman for that face.
Thank you very much for helping me with searching for that face.
Yes.
And how did you see that face? When did you meet her? Or how did you meet her?
First of all, this made me not to travel home like I used to be. Because I had to search even over weekends. After church, I would travel to town on Sunday.
Are you serious?
Yes. 4 months.
He is serious.
For 4 months. Then, you know, because I never knew if she was Kenyan, I remember I would go to Hilton Hotel, imagining she's a guest there. Scan every face at the reception. Ambassador, Kencom.
Oh my goodness.
The former Nakmat downtown. Yes. I would do 3 laps outside there looking at those who are waiting for, you know, the dates. Wako hapo. Naingia ndani, ground floor, na scan kila mtu, 3 rounds. Upstairs, 3 rounds. Naenda kwa tellers, na scan.
I want to know how you met the face.
This face, ilikuja kwa njia ya kwenda kununua chumvi. Yeah. After trying all that, I just switched shops where I used to buy items in the estate where I was staying. And I was received very well in the next shop. And after about a week, I go there and I didn't find the woman that used to be there. I found her brother. Akanitumikia siku mbili. The third day, nikapata ameweka a stack of photographs on the counter. And I used to be a photographer also. So that's where it began. When hizi ni zako? Ni za customers. Unapiga picha? Ndio, hata mimi. Can we talk business?
Yes.
And he tells me, that was a Wednesday. He tells me, come on Sunday at 7, we have dinner here, then discuss business. So when we went to the back room, he pulled out his album. And he said, see my history.
Yeah.
And when we started flipping, on the 3rd page was the face.
Oh my God. On the 3rd page was
of the album.
This face.
Yes. And I asked him,
were you aware that your face is being...
No, I had no idea. I had no single idea.
So you see that face, you recognize it?
Yes. And I asked, excuse me, who is this? And he tells me, this is my friend. Where is she? Why do you want to know? It is important to me.
Yes.
So, huyu ni rafiki yangu. Now, when a guy tells you that a lady is his friend,
what do you do?
You're not sure what question to ask next.
Yeah, how friends?
But I dared. What kind of friend? Yeah, we are close friends.
Considering you have her photo, I mean.
Yes. Tell us the measure of friendship.
So, what exactly are you planning with her? Say nothing. I have many girlfriends, so okay. Ako wapi? Tunasoma naye wapi? He told me. How does someone get there? He gave me directions. Unachukua matatu namba ngapi? Unashuka wapi? Unafika wapi? Una cross namna gani? Naambia okay, tafadhali. Kama ulikuwa na mipango, drop. Huyu ni mke wangu. Hakuna cha kuongea. And if you want to pursue, in case you haven't plans to, please do. But she is my wife and I'll get her.
So you arrive where she is?
No, that is during just the viewing of the photos. Yeah. Nimemwambia hapo hapo, huyu ni mke wangu na ndiye natafuta.
I want to know how you met.
Yeah, the guy is here and wanasoma pamoja. So after 1 week, I took him with me. so that he goes and introduces me to her. But before we met officially like that, now through the go-between, this was a Sunday evening. So he has given me directions. On Monday, I had already run away from work by 3 p.m.
Angelala siku ingine.
Oh my
That
God.
night,
I mean, on the
sikulala.
face.
Yes. And I had to
And see,
get
the
it.
guy is serious. You can tell from the way he's talking. It was
No joke.
Yes.
After walking for 120 days
Looking for the face.
on the streets
And you finally.
And praying in the bush severally.
for 4 years.
Imagine.
So now here I am. I ran away from work at 3. That whole week, Monday to Thursday. Natoroka kazi mapema. Na ninakuja najificha mahali strategically in that college where she was. Interestingly, on the first day, she appeared dressed the way she was in the photo that led me to her. And she went behind a building. I walked behind the same building, but from opposite directions. So nikakuja pole pole, nikamstudy vizuri face, naona kabisa ni yeye. Nikasema hallelujah.
The rest is history.
For 4 days, it was like that. The following Friday was Good Friday. And that's when we met her. And interestingly, as we got to where they were, we found her with a few friends at the institution's gate. And what were they going to do? They were on a fasting and prayer mission at Karura Forest. So we caught them just before they left. And the rest is history.
The most interesting thing about that is when we met at the gate, we were walking out to go and pray. What I used to do is, whenever I was free, I spent my time at Karura Forest or City Park praying from college. So we are walking out, I meet my friend, now the one who had the photo, and he introduces him to me. He's like, meet Daniel. So I'm shaking Daniel's hand. The moment I shook his hand, I heard a voice. This is the man. Everything about me was stopping, literally. And we went for prayers. We didn't talk so much, but I went knowing this is the man. Went for prayers. The most interesting part is I never prayed about any single prayer item that I had. I told you my life stopped. I started living his life. So my prayers were him. Not that he becomes mine, but the few things that we talked about within that few minutes that we spent, ndizo nilikuwa naombea. Why? I have no idea. I didn't know how I was going to see him again, but I was convinced that he is the man. And what followed from there, I think, is just history.
Soda and a biscuit.
Sodas, biscuits, of course.
Oh my goodness. What an awesome testimony. Remember I asked you, do you believe in miracles? Does God still speak? And in case you are trusting God for a partner, there is no better place to get them. So you don't get partners by dating, from dating sites. That would work. But the best place, from the heart of God.
Exactly. You can get partners. You actually don't have to see a picture. Not everyone will see a picture like my husband did. Not everyone will hear a voice like I did. But God has different ways of speaking and convincing us. Probably we may go out and as we talk, we become familiar.
Yes.
And then that attachment develops. And as soon as the attachment develops, then the rest, God puts it in place. So don't sit there, our listener, our viewer, thinking that you're wrong because you didn't see a picture or you didn't hear a voice. No, God speaks in different ways.
I like that.
And people are also speaking. I think I've read on Facebook, people saying you don't have to stay there waiting for Mr. Right. You can as well get Mr. Left. And sorry for this word, but this is what is written. And you drag the idiot to the right. You know, I've read that. And I think that is not God.
That is not God.
Yes, it's not God's
I want to
way.
talk about your wedding. I want to talk about your wedding. Lazima wasikie harusi yenu. Tell me, on MBCI TV, national TV, what was your budget?
Wow. Our budget was 5,000 Kenya shillings.
500,000.
Elfutano.
Make it 500,000 or 50.
5,000. Elfutano.
5,000 Kenya shillings was their budget.
Yes.
Rings, Nini, I mean, how do you have managed that with 5,000 bob? Break it down for me.
It was easy. We were very realistic with ourselves. We knew our backgrounds. We didn't expect the families to shoulder any part of our budget.
And he had patience
And
at that particular
I mean,
moment.
yeah. And we also knew that there were going to be challenges because it was a cross-cultural marriage. So looking at the distances we would travel, I'm from Kitui, she's from Meru North, connecting parents and all that.
Would have been crazy.
We said we don't have money, and I was earning very little. Yeah, she had just started working. We said,
Dad was very sick.
and yeah,
All your money was getting into his bill.
How was the 5,000 split? How are you planning to split it?
it was like this, very easy. What do we need? Clothes. So we have a second generation clothes called Ntumba. So if I go to Ikomba with less than 500,
Unapata
I'm able to match a trouser and
Kamili.
yeah.
Na shati.
What about your gown?
Si lazima kuwe na gown. Actually,
What about your rings?
hatukuwa na mpango wa gown.
We were not planning for those things. We had
the
clothes.
Rings, tell me about the
Rings
rings.
were on the street where we were staying at 5 or 10
shillings.
shillings a ring. So with 20 shillings we had rings in
Nani
our minds.
atasema ring yangu ni ya shilingi 5 nikiwa
We could
nimevaa?
change after that, but
What
for
about
that
the
day,
car? I mean, you need a car, she needs a
what
car.
car? What for? We have legs.
We can walk to the church.
And the church was 2 kilometers from the area where we were staying.
Oh my God.
She was staying not very far from me.
Precisely, we were living in Mathare North and we were going to church in Huruma. Our wedding was supposed to happen in Huruma. So we knew it's just a walking distance.
We could go and change in the church.
Yes.
And if we had to use a taxi at 150 shillings, she had a bridal taxi.
By the way.
And we reduced the number of people. We said we only need 2 maids,
Yeah.
no flower girls. I needed only 2 groomsmen and the best man, no page boys.
We had 2 maids, 2 flower girls, and 2 groomsmen.
Oh my God.
And the
you're
girls
there.
were forced on us by the parents.
Yes, by the way, they just brought them ready, set, dressed.
So
Oh my
one car,
goodness.
bride, best maid, and the
cake,
2 maids.
Please, 10 seconds, Mr. Producer. Tell me about the cake. What are you going to do with it?
I mean, is that a big deal?
It is.
Super. It's
It
not.
is. It
It's
is.
not. Go to the supermarket right now.
Talk to me.
You'll get cakes worth
100
today,
shillings.
they are 100 shillings. Then there were 60 shillings.
40
Mambo
to
cakes,
60.
About 60 shillings. Or
And we had
40.
friends who could ice.
So we knew even if we bought them, about 6 of them, 6 rings of those, and we called someone to ice them. My cousin is very good at icing. She was going to ice them. So we knew even if we don't ice them, all we need is cut those cakes and everyone will have a piece. I mean, 6 pieces of those cakes, marble cakes, that's a lot.
Na kikiumana, block loaf of bread or ugali.
Ama ugali, I mean, kwani.
But do I say, happening right here on Maisha and Ndoa, my goodness, my goodness. Whew. We'll be right back after the break.
And I finally got her.
The moment we greeted, we shook our hands. A voice in me said that this is the man.
As if that was not enough, they planned for a wedding worth 5,000 bob only.
Kwa maisha ya ndoa.
All right, we are back and kipindi hewani ni Maisha ya Ndoa. I'm your host Super Roy, and gracing our television sets, Mr. and Mrs. Daniel Masyiuki. If you hear their testimony, you will of course understand the joy that I'm feeling. You guys, any testimony yenu inajenga kabisa.
Bless the Lord.
Giving you kidogo recap, they just shared with us what they went through, how God spoke to you and showed you that this is your wife. You
Yes.
saw the picture. And you walked in the streets of Nairobi looking for that woman.
Yes.
My goodness. If you know someone who's looking for a wife, call them right now. Tell them it is happening right here. Eh? Wanapata tips for free. And we're not asking you for any consultation fee. I ever see. Wacha hiyo kidogo. Let us go. Let us now discuss about the issues that you guys have been able to overcome. The people who probably would think, kama ni Mungu amenena, itakuwa basi mteremko. Let's talk about finances. You guys were telling me about the miracles you've been able to see. We'll begin with you.
Right. I think there are too many. I lose count. But there are those that are so significant, they cannot leave your mind anytime. I think one of the, as we talk about finances, there are times we have had no source of income. I remember I worked for about 9 years. I had good jobs, and there was, upward progression. Then at the end of 2009, the job that I had taken up 9 months earlier became impossible. It was made impossible for me, not that the job was tough. And I considered that the best thing was to quit. And this was on grounds of my faith. Yes, work is good, productivity good, the pay was super, but what I was being asked to do was ungodly. And there was no other basis apart from finding the basis on my God in order to push me out and leave room for someone who could agree. So after much prayer and consultation with my wife and my mentor,
you decided you quit.
One day I sit down, I call my wife, and we agree we are quitting.
It's another day you're broke.
Absolutely broke. Like there's nothing. Thank God for the city council water.
That is what is sustaining you.
Yes. That is what we had in the house. We had absolutely nothing. And I know many people are watching us and they know us, but God knows. Maybe a few people know this. No one knew. It is going to be a shock on so many people, but this is the truth about what God can do.
True, and it's about testifying.
Yes.
The word of God says, he who has a testimony.
Yes.
Yes.
If Jesus is in you, you have a testimony.
Exactly.
So basically, many people will be shocked, but this is the reality. This day we have absolutely nothing. And believe you me, we walked on the roads, on the streets of Nairobi, always with a smile. You see that, my smile, the Colgate smile, it has never faded. Whether there is or we don't have, we have been strong as a family, as a couple. No one will ever know.
To blow and to
no
smile.
one will ever know that we are broke. We don't have food in the house.
What happened?
But
that
God knows.
And God is the provider.
That's the most important person,
Yes.
after all. So this day we have nothing. I said, apart from the city council water. So this friend calls me and she's like, are you guys in the house? Yeah, we're in the house. Namuuliza ni nini? Ananiambia, nilitaka tu kujua kuwasalimia. That kind of a talk.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, thanks, umefanya vizuri. Na she hanged. And that was it. Much later, this time the babies are there looking at us. We don't know what to give them. We are actually looking up. As they look on us, we are looking up and telling God, if you don't save us this time, then we are finished.
Does the friend come?
Around 8, 9 there again. I think our God comes at 9.
He shows up.
He shows up at 9.
Tell me how he shows up.
So this girl we just had a knock at the gate. So my husband walks out to check who is at the gate. And this girl comes in with a friend that I had only met twice. He is from my community. I just met him twice. We had a particular discussion, and that was like some years.
So they walk
back.
into the house.
So they come into the house, and we are talking. We have nothing to give them, and for a woman, you have visitors. You don't have a cup of tea, and
offer.
Especially not just any woman. I grew up where we had so much, plenty, like. No one should get into the house and they have nothing to be given. But here I am. It was a nightmare for me. It's not a situation I want even to remember, were it not that I'm recounting of God's doing. So they said, we are not staying, we just thought we need to see you. And it was my girlfriend's birthday that day. It was her birthday. So I'm thinking, so this is an outing for your birthday, not just pulling her leg. And she's like, well, it seems.
Yeah.
And that was it. So they're like, now see us off. We walked out, And going to their car, they're like, we have something small for you here. The guy opens the car boot and the boot,
It was a big car.
a big one.
It was a Lexus.
A Lexus.
So the boot is big.
It is-
When
Now
you
imagine
say
the
is
boot.
big.
yes, talk to me what
And
was
it
in the
is
boot.
stacked full.
My goodness.
This time as we are seeing them off, the babies walked out with us, the 4 of them. So here we are 6 people seeing off these 2 guys, and the car boot is full. So my friend started pulling out stuff from the boot and putting them down. And he said, this is yours. You know, for once, you have no words.
So you guys carry the stuff?
Yes, everyone carried the stuff,
We
including
could
the
not do
babies.
one trip.
We couldn't carry once.
Even the babies
the
carried.
6 of us.
Everyone is carrying.
Even plus your visitors.
That is when unasema nimeona Mungu mwenyewe.
So mnaenda na shopping ndani ya nyumba.
We placed it down there. I actually went back and sat, and he sat there, and the babies are standing. We are all looking at one another, you know, like just throwing glances. You
What
don't
is
know
happening?
what to say. What has just happened? You know, like
Within a flash of a minute,
yes,
God has come and changed your situation around.
something has just
And
happened.
there are
and
snacks ready for the hungry children that before
There.
you can even prepare a meal.
juices, milk, the packed ones for the babies, everything, and milk that we stuffed in our fridge that we used for I don't know how long.
Oh my goodness. My goodness. That is the very powerful testimony of Mr. and Mrs. Daniel Masyiuki. My God, I don't know what it is you believe in God for, because we are here to encourage you. Probably you're in that situation they were in. Thank God, Mungu amewatoa pale.
We bless the Lord.
But we want to speak to you that God is able to turn your situation around. They said something very important. As the children looked to them, they were looking up. It all depends where your eyes are. Kidogo tu, talk to us about your child. Sasa.
Okay.
Yes, that is one other awesome testimony. We've got to hear it. Round it up in a few minutes.
I told you we have a lot to thank God for. We bless the Lord for giving us 4 children. We have 2 biological and 2 adopted children.
Wow, what are their beautiful names?
We have Abigail Mwende and Deborah Mwendani.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
So what happens to one of them? I've got to hear this story on Maisha and Ndoa. Narrate it in a few minutes.
Yeah, 1 week after we took them home for fostering, I was in the office. I had just taken the temporary job, and she was doing her exams at the university. So I'm in the office at 7, and the house help calls me and says, "Mtoto amegonjeka ghafla." I mean, she went to the kitchen to serve food, and while there, because we had involved our 5-year-old son in the adoption process, he's the one who was taking care of them, and the elder of the twins started choking and gasping for breath. It's like she's choking. So yeah, alisema, "Auntie, kimbia, mtoto ananyongwa." So she came quickly, and within 5 minutes she was able to give the other children to a neighbor plus the food, and she rushed to a clinic. The clinician looked at the baby, said, "Try Kiambu District Hospital." There's a neighbor who was operating a house. When the security guard at the main gate saw the child and our house help running, he stormed into this guy's sitting room and said, "Mtoto wa kina Mwendoa amegonjeka, wakimbiza hospitali." So this guy akitoka house help ashakimbia kwa clinic. So he's wondering, sasa nitawafuata wapi? But decided to try the first clinic, and that's where he got them. Sasa ile wameambiwa nendeni Kiambu District Hospital. Akitokea hivi kwa mlango akakutana na mwenye gari. So now the house becomes an ambulance to Kiambu. She got admitted. By the time we were getting there, she was already admitted.
That night, now I think this is very important for everyone to hear. When we realized that the machines were failing, no oxygen where the child was, we decided we are going to carry this baby and run to another hospital. This was around 1 a.m. So 2 a.m. actually.
It's the doctor who told us 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Our oxygen is failing.
Yeah.
Do you have transport? I said yes. And I'm told, if you don't get this child to a better equipped facility, hospital facility, she has 15 minutes to live.
My goodness, did the child survive?
Yes. And by the way, we left that place that night. He drove. We have no oxygen, no ambulance, no nothing. I
drove in our
picked the
car.
baby, put her on my chest. I went speaking life to her. As I was with my brother, we were with our 2 brothers. They were crying all the way. And I held the baby all the way. I spoke life. At some point, I could tell this girl is going completely. But I would tell God, no, she can't go. She has to leave. We got ourselves to the hospital.
And God performed
7
a miracle.
minutes
I need
from
to know
Kiambu
this.
to Aga
God
Khan.
performed a miracle and the baby is alive.
The baby is alive. The bigger miracle was in how the bead was removed, because it was eventually removed.
So the bead was removed.
Yes. After we had stayed, the baby had stayed in ICU for
That was almost 6-7 days.
about 7 days in ICU. The doctors had really struggled. At some point, the doctors could cry in theater,
Because it's
literally
impossible.
calling nurses, go down on your knees and pray. You know, in the hospital, I don't know whether that is ethical, but it was happening. Why? Because God was at work. So eventually, we were told this girl must be operated on for us to remove these foreign bodies, the bead. And the doctor that we were dealing with at this moment, he came and told us, we will try anything possible to see whether we can scoop them out without operating on this child. Because if we do, this is going to affect this girl's life, her entire life.
It's an
And
open
it's
chest
like
surgery.
opening the chest completely.
Like
Available,
heart
I
surgery.
need to know, time running out, seeing my producer pointing at me and telling me that
Yes.
we need to finalize this
Yes.
awesome story. We need to have you again. Was the bead scooped out?
It
was
was
removed.
scooped out.
No surgery.
surgery.
And the bill was $500,000. We paid no cent.
did pay
and
a
we had no
shilling.
medical cover.
No medical cover.
Don't even
miracles
add.
happen.
Don't even add another word to it. I was asking you before we began this show, do you believe in miracles? Here we have the testimonies. You've got to. It doesn't matter where you've come from, which culture, which tribe, what part of this country. But we want to encourage you that God still works in miracles. This is Maisha and I'm your host, Super Roy. Na kama kawaida, this is what we say as we end this program. Your marriage must.
Come, we'll love you to the end of the world. For better, for worse, till death do us part.